I feel like something story-related is supposed to be going on that makes this review impossible at this point in time. Screw it. Here's the review. And welcome back to the Viewer's Request Marathon. Today we're looking at a magical girl anime requested by Joey Reddick. Now the idea of this show isn't new, basically taking the idea of magical girls and flipping it on its head, either by subverting tropes or making it dark as time goes on. Madoka Magica did it, to varying degrees of success. Utakata did it, and now this show is doing it, but more on that later. Yuki Yuna is a Hero was produced by Studio Gokumi and directed by Seiji Kishi, who also directed such classics as the Persona 4 anime and Chief Directing Danganronpa 3. I see your red. But I also see an anime in front of me, so how about we stop stalling and see if it's any good. The show revolves around the Hero Club, a middle school club that helps others who request it and do various things such as rescuing kittens and basically entertaining these kids. But one day, they are given the power to transform into magical girls thanks to an application provided by the Taisha, an organization set up to prevent the divine tree from getting destroyed, which could destroy the rest of the world, and fight evil. But as the series goes on, the four of them discover that being a hero isn't all that crap except to be, and face the consequences of their new power as a result. Like I said, if you saw Madoka Magica or Utakata, you probably are familiar with this stuff in magical girl anime, but to this show's credit, unlike Madoka, it doesn't have a stupid time travel element to it. That being said, the Taisha, and by extension the writers, do have their own issues at points with the story, one of which being, well, they don't know how Obsidian is supposed to work. Now for those who don't know, Obsidian is a process after blooming that sheds a part deemed unnecessary to the plant. Now, the anime did get the after blooming part correct, but the shedding part, no way at all. No, they lose their senses and limbs. Look, I'm not going to bore you guys with all the info, and if you want a link to my source, please check the description, but an example of Obsidian would be a tree dropping its fruit, which does make sense. Its goal is to sprout fruit and then it's done. It doesn't need that fruit anymore. But this show's idea of Obsidian is to remove stuff like the 5 senses of the human body, and I'm sorry, that's stupid, especially when you consider that when, say, sight is lost, the other senses are slightly improved to make up for the lost sense. If it wasn't necessary, the brain or body wouldn't rewire it to enhance the other senses. And for the record, I have no issues with the characters losing their limbs or the senses or the like. After all, it ties into the idea of power corrupting someone, something we've seen in a lot of anime prior to this. But the idea of doing it through Obsidian is dumb, especially when, again, the stuff being lost is necessary for a human to survive. And given how this series has several spin-offs, I wouldn't be surprised if in those versions they lose stuff like arms or even organs. And now I have this odd idea in my head of one of the characters being a headless magical girl. Actually, screw Goblin Slayer. Can we have an anime about that instead? Maybe it can make this character less solid if she was included. But okay, does the story work? Honestly, yes. It's paced decently. The 4 main characters, minus the one who joins later, and I'll talk about that later, get their chance in the spotlight as well as a chance for the personalities to be expanded upon, and the twist halfway through the series, as stated previously, is handled really well. Sure, it has stupid stuff in it, like the Obsidian nonsense mentioned earlier, but for the most part, the dialogue is pretty good, as well as the development, resulting in a good story overall. They even got a good final boss out of it, in the form of Mimori. Yeah, one of the main characters becomes the final boss near the end when she discovers the truth of what goes on beyond the Shinju tree, and wants to destroy the Shinju tree to save her friends from this cycle that'll ultimately ruin their lives as well as those living in the area the Shinju tree is protecting. And one of the reasons I like that is because she's not what I define as a villain in the scope of a black and white view. She's doing this to save her friends as well as others from this cycle that'll ultimately cripple them due to their enemies constantly getting rebuilt until they lose all of their limbs and senses, and then someone else has to be recruited, which will do the same thing to them. And frankly, stopping that is a good thing, but her methods also paint her as someone who must be stopped, since she's going to destroy the tree to do it, and by extension the world it's protecting. She wants to do good, and an argument could be made that someone watching this could sympathize with her, but her methods paint her as extreme since it'll kill everyone in the process. Which, honestly, I like this kind of writing because personally, I'm a sucker for gray area / villains who want to do good, but their methods of doing it paint them as bad as a result. Or it could also be because she was pretty well written in context of the show prior to this change. That works too. That's actually another thing I can compliment about this show. its characters. As stated earlier, the 4 main members each have a chance in the spotlight, and we get to see more of them as characters as the story goes on, which I like. We see Yuna's past with Imori, we see Fu's struggles as a leader, as well as being there for her little sister after what happened with her parents. We see Itsuki struggling with her singing, as well as her issues with having her sister look after her. We see the 5th member, Karin, and her struggles with not only making friends in the beginning, but also being the only member of the group who didn't lose a sense or limb because she didn't transform/bloom. We even see Imori realize the nasty truth about the familiars, aka their fairies, that being that they prevent the heroes from killing themselves. These are aspects I can appreciate about this show because, well, it makes them feel like characters I should care about, and when nasty things come their way, I feel bad towards them because, again, the show gave me a reason to care about them as characters. Unlike, again, Madoka, where most of the cast I couldn't give a crap about, and when one of them died, I was more so surprised about the tonal shift than the death of someone, and that is a bad thing in regards to the characters. Jeez, any more ranting about Madoka and it'll be a 2-hour video talking about why it sucks. Speaking of Madoka, though, let's talk about the characters individually. I liked Yuna's character, not just because of her chemistry with the other members of the club, but also because of her personality and how far she'll go to be a hero, even sacrificing the use of her legs to save her friend Mimori, though that was undone after the gods decided to strip them of their powers. But still, good on you gods. Now look at a biology book next time. But yeah, I could see the argument being made that her personality isn't all that interesting. I liked it for the record, but I can see why people are complaining about that. I already went over Mimori as a final boss, but as a character, I liked her as well. She had a good personality, I liked her chemistry with the rest of the group as well as Yuna, and one thing I can definitely appreciate is that, like, say, DC, they had a disabled character, but they were able to kick just as much ass as everyone else. Also, I just noticed this while editing. I originally thought that her feet were touching the floor, but no, it's basically her form that's allowing her to move and all that stuff. It's a cute little detail, and I like that they kept that attention instead of just restored her legs. But also, like DC, they pretty much removed her disability by the end of the series. Smooth. I also went over Fu and Itsuki's struggles earlier, which I also liked for the record, but as characters, I also really liked them. They had good chemistry, making their heartwarming moments all the more sweeter, such as when Itsuki and Fu have a scene on the bridge, and Fu was talking about how she shouldn't have accepted being in the hero program since it would mean her sister wouldn't get involved, but Itsuki said that she did the right thing and is happy that she doesn't need to be protected now. That's a good scene, not only because it showcases Fu as a caring older sister, but also Itsuki as someone who can now protect others instead of herself being protected. Finally, that leaves Karin, the 5th member of the group, which I can finally now talk about, and while she isn't given as much time to shine as the others in the main cast, that doesn't mean she's a bland or boring character. She does have good chemistry and a good bond with the other characters in the main cast, and that scene near the end of the series where she goes all out to protect her friends at the cost of using up her body, that was really awesome. Not only because it showcased how badass she could be in her bloom state, at the cost of her limbs, again that's not how obsession works, but also because it showcased how much the members of the Hero Club meant to her. Before, she felt like a tool to the Taisha, but thanks to them, she felt more whole. She felt like, well, a person. This is getting too sappy. I need something to fix that.
You may have heard these words before, and let me tell you what they really mean. Go beyond! Hero Club Ultra!
Yeah, I can't get that in Madoka. Speaking of, can I just say that the animation is a lot more appealing to the eye in this series? But to give Madoka one positive, I will say that I prefer the music of that show over this. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the opening/ending as well as the soundtrack for Yuki Yuna, and while the opening does have nice visuals, the lyrics and composition just didn't do it for me, and the soundtrack itself, while it does work for the scenes it's used in sometimes, it's really not that memorable on its own. But yeah, I really liked Yuki Yuna. It's not perfect, but in comparison to the last show with this kind of concept, that being Madoka, I'll take this over Madoka any day. Thank you very much, Joey Reddick, for requesting this. I really appreciate it, and yeah, I'm gonna give the second season a shot when I have the time. Till then, I'm David Grimm, and I'll see you next time when I'll be tackling... oh crap. See you then. A pity that you didn't have your red ring. Then this could have been an actual fight. I destroyed it long ago. That I have no qualms in doing this. Do your thing. I'll subject him to his nightmares. Huh? Why do you think I got rid of it? Because I'm no longer afraid or intimidated by my past. Now back off! Now I see what you're doing. She already escaped and you're just stalling for time, aren't you? Fine then. I'll settle this myself. I'll die. What the fuck? I'm not done yet. And waste more of my time? Forget it.